I was about to raise my champagne glass to celebrate my sister's latest success when my husband, Marcus, suddenly grabbed my wrist. Marcus was usually calm and controlled. He never caused scenes or raised his voice. His work in counterintelligence had taught him to stay composed under pressure. But this time his grip was so tight that my fingers went numb. His eyes were fixed on my glass. "Don't touch that glass," he said quietly. The crystal clicked against the table as he pushed my hand away. Everyone at the dinner table stopped talking. My parents stared at Marcus in shock. But Marcus wasn't looking at them. He was staring directly at my sister, Victoria. Her confident smile had disappeared. Her face had gone completely pale. "My name is Isabella, but everyone calls me Izzy. I'm 38 years old, a U.S. Army major specializing in medical logistics. My job is all about precision, making sure critical medicines and supplies reach the people who need them without mistakes." But my parents never seemed impressed by my career. To them, Victoria was the family star. She was a brilliant vascular surgeon, elegant, successful, and constantly praised by our parents. While they celebrated every achievement Victoria made, my military career was treated like something ordinary. That Thursday night, my parents had thrown an expensive dinner at their Sacramento estate to celebrate Victoria's newest achievement: her appointment to her hospital's executive board. The dining room was filled with candles, fine china, and endless praise for Victoria. I sat beside Marcus, quietly watching my sister enjoy all the attention. My father lifted his champagne glass. "To Victoria," he announced proudly. "The pride of the Whittaker family." Everyone raised their glasses. Victoria smiled and took a sip. Then she looked across the table at me with a small, victorious smile. I reached for my own glass. That was when Marcus grabbed my wrist. "Marcus, what are you doing?" my father shouted. My mother looked horrified. "That champagne cost $200, she snapped. "Have you lost your mind?" Marcus ignored them. He slowly released my wrist and picked up the fallen glass. "Look at the rim," he said. My father frowned. "What are you talking about?" Marcus turned the glass under the chandelier. A faint, cloudy residue was visible along the inside edge. "That isn't normal," Marcus said. He looked at me. "Izzy knows medical compounds. So do I. That residue is consistent with a heavy liquid sedative." The room went completely silent. I looked at Victoria. Her face had gone white. "This is ridiculous," she stammered. "He's crazy. Mom, Dad, make them leave." But her reaction made my stomach drop. For the first time in my life, I looked at my sister differently. Not as the family favorite. Not as the perfect daughter. But as someone who might have known exactly what was in that glass. Marcus took my hand and led me outside. Behind us, my father shouted angrily while Victoria's frightened voice echoed through the house. Once we were inside our SUV, I turned toward Marcus. "Tell me what just happened." He started the engine and kept his eyes on the road. "I've been following a federal alert for 3 weeks, he said. I waited. A highly controlled liquid sedative used in surgical settings disappeared from several regional medical distribution centers. My blood ran cold. Marcus continued. "When I noticed the cloudy residue in your glass, I remembered the alert. Then I watched Victoria." He paused. "Every time you reached for that glass, she watched you closely." I stared at him. Suddenly, the dinner didn't feel like a family celebration anymore. It felt like a trap. My military logistics training immediately took over. As a major responsible for pharmaceutical supply chains, I knew exactly how tightly controlled those sedatives were. Access required special credentials and multiple levels of authorization. "You can't just buy something like that," I said. "It would have to come from a hospital inventory." When Marcus and I reached home, we went straight to his office. I logged into the military medical network while Marcus pulled up federal supply records. For 2 hours, we compared serial numbers, shipment records, and batch codes connected to Victoria's hospital department. Then we found something disturbing. During the previous 6 months, 3 shipments of highly controlled sedatives had been marked as damaged in transit. Every report carried Victoria's digital authorization. She hadn't simply mishandled the medication. She had been taking it. And I appeared to be her target. By sunrise, our screens were filled with another shocking discovery. Victoria was drowning in debt. We found shell companies in Nevada and offshore accounts connected to more than $1.4 million in losses from failed medical businesses and risky investments. Then I remembered my grandfather's trust. I pulled up the original documents. His will divided the family estate equally between Victoria and me after our mother's death. But there was one important condition. If either sister became medically incapacitated or permanently unable to manage her affairs, the other would receive control of the trust. Suddenly everything made sense. Victoria didn't necessarily need me dead. She needed me to appear mentally incapable. A controlled sedative taken repeatedly over time could potentially cause serious confusion and other medical problems that might be mistaken for a neurological or psychiatric disorder. She was trying to make me look sick enough to lose control of my inheritance. I printed every financial record, supply chain report, and digital audit we had found. That afternoon I drove to my parents' house. I placed the evidence on the same dining table where we had celebrated Victoria the night before. My father barely looked at it. "This is fake," he snapped, throwing the papers back at me. "Your sister is a respected surgeon. You've always been jealous of her." My mother nodded beside him. They refused to believe anything. After years of treating Victoria like she could do no wrong, they were willing to believe I was simply bitter rather than accept what was in front of them. I gathered the documents. "Fine," I said quietly. "Let the federal authorities explain it." Marcus and I contacted the hospital's internal affairs department and federal investigators. Together, they arranged a controlled investigation designed to preserve the evidence and stop Victoria from deleting anything. The next morning, I walked into St. Jude's Memorial Hospital wearing my full military dress uniform. I went directly to the executive surgical floor. Victoria was sitting behind her desk reviewing patient charts. When she saw me, irritation briefly crossed her face before she replaced it with her usual perfect smile. "Izzy," she said, "if you came to apologize for your husband's behavior at dinner, I'm listening. But I have rounds in 10 minutes. I'm not here to apologize." I placed a silver thermos on her desk. "I brought your favorite coffee." She pushed it away. "Do you really think coffee will fix what happened at Mom and Dad's house?" "It's not about the coffee," I said calmly. I leaned closer. "It's your chance to resign quietly before federal investigators shut down this entire department." Victoria laughed. "Federal investigators? You've completely lost it. You're just a supply officer in a uniform. You can't touch me." Before she could say another word, her desk phone rang. The two monitors behind her suddenly flashed red with security alerts. Victoria froze. The office doors opened. Hospital administrators walked in with two federal investigators. For the first time, Victoria had no smile left. And she finally realized the investigation was already underway. Victoria's face went pale as the lead investigator held up a sealed evidence bag containing the altered pharmaceutical records and the champagne glass. Panic took over. She rushed toward her laptop and tried to delete files, but an agent immediately stepped in and shut it down. Without her perfect image to hide behind, Victoria finally exploded. "You ruined everything," she screamed at me as the agents restrained her. "You were always nothing compared to me." Minutes later, Dr. Victoria Prescott was arrested outside the hospital's executive surgical wing. Her co-workers stood in stunned silence as federal agents escorted the hospital's rising star away in handcuffs. The brilliant, untouchable surgeon everyone admired was finally exposed. 2 hours later, Marcus and I sat in my parents' living room with the lead federal investigator. He placed an official report on the coffee table. Victoria was facing 24 charges involving medical fraud, theft, and the misuse of a controlled substance. My father picked up the report with shaking hands. The confidence he had shown the day before was gone. My mother quietly cried as she stared at Victoria's empty portrait above the fireplace. For 20 years, they had treated Victoria like she could do no wrong. They had ignored the warning signs, dismissed my military career, and accused me of being jealous. All because they wanted to protect their perfect daughter. "How could she do this?" my father whispered. Then he looked at me. "How could we have been so blind?" I had no answer. For once, the truth was impossible to ignore. In the months that followed, Victoria was convicted and sentenced. I also took control of my own financial future, legally separating my assets from the family trust and becoming completely independent from my parents. For the first time I felt free. Later, I stood beside Marcus at my military promotion ceremony wearing my dress uniform. As I looked at the people who had supported me, I realized something important. I no longer needed my family's approval to know my worth. My career, my rank, and my marriage were built on trust, discipline, loyalty, and integrity. No amount of family praise could ever replace those things. True strength isn't about standing on a pedestal built from lies. It's about having the courage to face the truth even when it hurts. So what would you do if you discovered that the sibling your family worshipped was secretly working against you? Would you expose the truth, or walk away from your family for good? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more stories. Thanks for watching and stay vigilant.